Hi. So, my main story tonight concerns a question I ask myself every day at work. No, it's not when will this Zoom meeting end so I can go back to work. It's also not when will this pandemic end and I can take a vacation from work. But it's the other important one, which is what does death have to do with maintenance of life? So, today let's talk about a biologist's outlook on this question. So, our human bodies are the ultimate example of an intricate biological system that's designed to perform complicated functions, and we're alive. So, our bodies are made up of fundamental units called cells, and these cells basically contain all the components that perform the different functions that keep us up and running. The instruction manual that tells our cells how to be a good biological being is the DNA that's present in our cells. The DNA is essentially a sequence of bases that forms individual units called genes, which are like individual pages of the instruction manual. And these genes ultimately have the information that's required to produce proteins. And proteins are the actual workhorses that carry out the functions in the cell that keep us alive. So other than telling a cell how to perform its functions, the DNA is also important for other things. Growth and reproduction are a part of life. So a cell gives rise to a next generation of cells, and the DNA in it is copied so that these new cells can then perform the same functions so that we keep living. It's very important, therefore, that this entire process is carried out without any mistakes, and if there are mistakes, steps be taken to fix it. Otherwise, we would just end up giving an error-filled instruction manual to the next generation and then sit back and watch everything collapse. Reminds me of climate change somehow. So our cell is basically then equipped to deal with situations that go wrong. Our cell faces damage, the DNA in our cell faces damage from various sources day in and day out. These sources can be internal, like toxic byproducts of very regular cellular processes, but they can also be external, like UV or toxic pollutants or radiation. And to deal with such situations, our cells have evolved a sort of system that's known as the DNA damage response system. Think of it as a monitoring unit in a factory whose job it is to sort of look at every single product and make sure that it's up to a certain standard. So the DNA damage response system in our cells is quite like this. And this system is basically run by the function of many genes and is headed by a boss that is a gene called P53. Seemingly harmless name, but it's also more commonly known as the guardian of the genome, and it's also one of the most widely researched fields in the field of cancer biology. And I'll come to why in a bit. So it's basically the job of P53 to make a lot of decisions and coordinate every step of the DNA damage response. So let's say, for example, that there are some cells and they have certain amounts of damage to their DNA. So these cells then activate the DNA damage response machinery. And then P53 checks how much damage there is in these cells. Let's say the damage in these cells is not very high. Then P53 makes a series of decisions. Okay, this damage can be fixed. So then it will activate the DNA repair genes, whose job it is to come and fix this damage, so that then we have healthy cells that can go on and perform functions that are required for normal life. This is one mode of the DNA damage response machinery. The other mode, let's say we have some cells that have way high levels of damage. And when these levels are detected, P53 looks at that and says, oh, look, the DNA repair genes can't deal with this level of damage. And these cells, therefore, cannot pass the inspection and must be eliminated. How do you do this? P53 basically activates what is known as programmed cell death, or apoptosis, where these cells then must undergo death so that they are not carried over to the next generation. This is the second mode of the DNA damage response. So it's very important, it's extremely important that these cells which have irreparable levels of DNA damage undergo programmed cell death, because the consequences of cells with damaged DNA going on to form a new generation of cells can be catastrophic. So let's reiterate. You have a healthy cell with perfectly fine DNA. These make perfectly functional proteins, and then you have normal cell function. Sometimes damage to the DNA can result in changes to the sequence of the DNA. This is what we commonly know as mutations. Mutations can happen anywhere in our DNA. They can happen in any gene. And a very common consequence of having mutations in genes is that they will then produce faulty proteins, which then perform all sorts of weird, distorted cellular functions. And then this often leads to quite bad disease conditions. Let's take a very famous, familiar example. Coming back to p53. This gene is one that's very highly prone to be mutated in our DNA. And here's why it's most famously studied in the field of cancer biology. If you look at all kinds of human cancers, and if you decide to check, oh, what are the genes that are commonly mutated in all these kinds of human cancers, p53 sits right on top of the list by a very wide margin. It basically means that p53 is one of the most commonly mutated genes in a majority of human cancers. What's the consequence of having a mutation in your p53 gene? As we saw before, because p53 is the boss of the DNA damage response system, having a mutation will render this gene dysfunctional, which means the entire DNA damage response machinery will fail and collapse. So then, when we have cells with DNA damage, they won't be repaired, but they also then won't undergo cell death. And these cells with damaged DNA will go on living. Something that these cells then love to do is divide or multiply, as we saw from the talk before, in an uncontrolled manner and form huge groups of cells to form tumors, which is what we recognize cancers as. So coming back to the question that I ask myself at work every day, why and how is death important for life? On a more fundamental level, I ask, why should the death that's not happening be restored, or how should it be restored? Is there a way that the mutated p53 can somehow be restored to function correctly so that the DNA damage response machinery starts working again? If not, can we use maybe some other genes to compensate or bypass this function and then restore the DNA damage response so that ultimately cells that must die, cells that have extreme DNA damage that must die, can actually die, so that the other healthy cells, which must live for us to be a healthy biological being, can actually go ahead and live and perform their functions correctly. In our lab, we ask these questions at a very fundamental level. We address these using a very humble but powerful genetic model, a tiny round worm that lives in the soil, which is known as Caenorhabditis elegans. This worm has taught the research community almost everything that we know about cell death, how it happens, what are the genes that bring about this process, and this work was even awarded the Nobel Prize back in 2002. There are many advantages that the worm offers us as a genetic model. The entire DNA damage response machinery is quite widely conserved between the worm and higher organisms, such as mice and humans. It basically means that we have quite similar genes as them. So we can use the worms as a tool to study the same process that happens in us. Another advantage is that worms are quite short-lived. Their entire lifespan is around 3 weeks. So we can actually study quite quickly what happens when they're exposed to DNA damage. And we also have this super nice advantage of using very advanced genetic techniques like CRISPR-Cas9 to actually then mutate different kinds of genes and see which one might actually affect the DNA damage response when you have a p53 mutation, and then hopefully reactivate this machinery. So the ultimate aim of asking all these questions and studying these at a very fundamental level is that we can find answers that can be translated to a clinical level, where one day we will be able to design therapies that very specifically target the detrimental effects of a failed DNA damage response. Thank you.